Baada ya kupiga mbiu ya mgambo kuwahimiza Wakenya zaidi kujisajili kuwa wapiga kura, hususan kuanzia Machi 30 hadi Aprili 28, na vijana kuchachawizwa na lakabu ya niko kadi na wengine kuraiwa na viongozi wa kisiasa, sajili ya IEBC imeshiba zaidi kwa kupata nguvu mpya milioni 2.6. Sasa idadi rasmi ni milioni 24.7 ya wapiga kura.
From the performance perspective, the enhanced continuous voter registration exercise in 2026 has particularly recorded notable improvements, both in terms of the efficiency and output compared to previous large-scale registration initiatives.
Lakini huku tume ikicheka na jino la Disemba, matukio ya kustajabisha yamekuwa pia yakitendeka sambamba na shughuli hiyo ya mkini. Mnamo tarehe 6 Aprili, kijana Morris Kioko wa huko Mombasa aliandamana na kikosi cha NTV sako kwa bako hadi kwenye meza ya usajili kuthibitisha kwamba amechezewa karata dume tayari baada ya kupata yumo kwenye sajili, ilhali hajawahi kushiriki uchaguzi wowote katika uhai wake.
Nilipoenda kituoni, kila wakiverify details zangu zinasema mwaka huambatani, so ikabidi niende ofisini. Kufika ofisini, wakiangalia ID yangu iliregistriwa na mtu ambaye yuko Garissa. Sura ni Msomali lakini majina kamili yote ni yangu, ID number ni yangu, lakini sehemu ya kupiga kura si zangu.
Kioko aliyewahi kujiunga na huduma ya taifa kwa vijana kituo cha Bura, jimbo la Tana River, asema hajawahi kanyaga himaya ya Garissa. Lakini cha kumstajabisha ni kwamba amesajiliwa kama mpiga kura wa kituo cha Kone ECD, wadi ya Jarajara, eneo bunge la Balambala, kaunti ya Garissa.
Tambulisho changu nilichukua mwaka 2016. Sijai register. Kura ya kwanza sikupiga. Nilikuwa nafanya NYS, so sikuweza kujiandikisha. After huko sasa, hii ndio ilikuwa mwaka wangu wa kwanza nilikuwa nataka kujiandikisha. Lakini nikienda kuangalia napata mambo ni tofauti vile nilivyokuwa natarajia. Kama iko uwezekano wa wao kushughulikia, kwa sababu kama mimi imenitendekea, najua wako wengine pia, waende waangalie, kwa sababu samaki moja hawezi kuwa amekufa peke yake baharini. Wako wengi. Sijaipiga kura. Ndio mwaka wangu wa kwanza nilikuwa nataka kupiga kama kijana Gen Z. Tujitokeze tuseme tuko kadi, lakini kadi yangu naona ni kama ilitangulia kabla ya mimi.
Kwenye kikao na wanahabari siku ya Alhamisi, tume ya uchaguzi ilikataa katakata kuizungumzia sakata hiyo na iwapo tatizo hilo limesuluhishwa au la, na badala yake kwa kauli moja wakatoa kucha ndefu.
However, please let's not go into those. We know that particular case that happened in Mombasa, and we ask the gentleman come to our offices. We will look at the systems and it will be resolved. However, please, we ask the gentleman, one of our commissioners is handling that case.
Na huenda si Morris Kioko pekee, waathiriwa ni kadhaa eti. Jumanne tarehe 21 Aprili, mbunge wa Embakasi Magharibi Mark Mwenje aliitisha taarifa kutoka kwa kamati ya masuala ya sheria ieleze ni kwa nini na vipi vijana waliosajili kupiga kura katika eneo bunge lake. Sasa IEBC inaonyesha kuwa vituo vyao vya kupigia kura ni katika kaunti za Garissa na Wajir, ilhali wao si wakazi au asilia ya himaya hizo.
Concerns have been raised that during the ongoing verification exercise, several registered voters within Nairobi City County have allegedly been assigned polling stations outside Nairobi, with some reflected as registered voters in Garissa County. This development raises serious concerns regarding the integrity, accuracy and credibility of the voters' register. Such irregularities, if confirmed, have the potential to undermine public confidence in the electoral process and may occasion disenfranchisement of voters who are unable to access their designated polling stations. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I seek a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs on the following. 1. The veracity of the allegations regarding the transfer of voters from Nairobi City County to Garissa County and the extent of the affected voters.
On what Honorable Mwenje has raised, I am a bit lost on what impact does it have, because every citizen has a right to transfer.
You are out of order. Any citizen can register to vote anywhere. What Mwenje is asking is illegal transfer, not legal transfer. So you don't have to interrogate that. When do you bring a response? If you listen to him, he said, people are finding themselves involuntarily transferred to vote elsewhere. Isn't that what Mwenje you said? Yes. If anybody is involuntarily transferred, DK, that's an illegality.
Something was brought to my attention that there are voters in Embakasi West and Embakasi Central. Now, West is my constituency. That these people, when they register as voters, they're being registered in northeastern constituencies. So that issue was even raised by the MCA for South B. Waithera, she raised it at first, and I saw it, and I decided to investigate first because I'm a lawyer by profession, so I want to have facts. So I decided to go to the ground. Now, as politicians, we push people, can you go and register, go and register. Now, some of those youths have come back to me, and I've gotten where they are registered as voters. So I have the facts with me here. You find somebody in a polling station, such as one of mine, which is called Dr. Mwenje Secondary School. That's a polling center. The individual goes there to register as a voter, but ends up in a constituency in Garissa. You go, you find another one, they end up in a constituency in Wajir. And they are all these things were happening in Embakasi West and Embakasi Central. So once I've gotten quite a number of them, is why I had to bring and raise a statement. My assumption is somebody who lives there, I am the one, together with other, even with aspirants and other people, we are pushing these people to register. Why would somebody be going to register as a voter? You live in my constituency, but you register to vote in a very far-flung polling center in Balambala constituency or Ijara constituency. It doesn't make sense. So that is where, now once I'd gotten a pattern, and I discussed with my colleague from Embakasi Central, the Honorable Major Donk, he also told me he's noticed the same pattern.
Mjumbe huyo amejihami na ithibati za visa kadhaa na ataka IEBC jieleze haraka iwezekanavyo. Kutokana na sheria kuhusu habari muhimu za mtu yoyote yule, NTV itatumia jina moja pekee kusimulia baadhi yazo. Kimani aliyesajiliwa katika kituo cha Dr. Mwenje, sasa kituo chake inasemekana ni Dibe Mobile, wadi ya Danaba, eneo bunge la Wajir Kaskazini. Mteru ameandikishwa mpiga kura kituo cha Bula AP, wadi ya Ijara, eneo la Garissa. Mongai naye sasa itabidi apigie kura kituo cha Sikle, wadi ya Danyere, eneo bunge la Balambala, Garissa. Kigia kituo chake ni Bula AP, wadi ya Ijara, jimbo la Garissa. Atafikaje huko? Mweni ameandikishwa kuwa mpiga kura kituo cha Ijara Livestock Market huko kaunti ya Garissa.
What I want IEBC to do is to give us these details. You see, I already have mine. I actually, that's what I was looking at my phone. I actually have individuals, yeah? A gentleman here called Sam Nimrod Kimani, he registered at Dr. Mwenje. Now he's found himself in Wajir North, a polling center known as Dibe Mobile. I think that's what it's called. Yeah. When I inquired from the member of parliament, he told me this is one of the farthest corners. So even the members, I want to thank the members of parliament from Northeastern, because once I've raised it, they've come to me, some of them, and they've told me, Mwenje, what is this you're talking about? I'm telling them, people from Nairobi are being registered as voters. And I start showing them some of these names. There's a gentleman here called Christopher Muteru. He was taken to Ijara, and the polling center is Bula AP Dispensary. When I spoke to the MP for Ijara, he told me this is a very far-flung center. Who has taken him there? And this individual lives in my constituency. Yeah? I have another one here, Moiro Mongai. He was taken to Mbalambala. I spoke to the MP from Mbalambala. His name is Shuri. I'm asking him, now, just check this. So he tells me, I don't know who these people are. Why are they registering in those areas? And I'm telling him, if these are people who are working there, and you'd know the people who maybe have come to Nairobi to work and then go there. These are people who live in my constituency. They are youths that have picked, and they're the ones who are giving me these dates. So you can see I have quite a number. Abraham Kegia, he's been moved to Ijara as well. Ken Mweni will move to Ijara Livestock Market Policy. So they've given me the details already. So I already have close to 20 or 26 cases that I've gotten.
Kinachoibua maswali zaidi ni iweje watano hao wote waliojisajili katika eneo bunge la Embakasi Magharibi wamejipata katika vituo tofauti eneo la Kaskazini Mashariki. Wengi wao katika eneo bunge la Balambala, Garissa. Sawa naye Morris Kioko.
There is no coincidence here. When I've gotten this number of cases, and my colleague in Embakasi Central has gotten that kind of case, and you're finding it there, it means there's somebody deliberately doing this intentionally, moving these votes to the northeastern region. So it is not a coincidence. It is deliberate. I have a case. Last week we were issuing bursaries. Usually when we issue bursaries, we consider those people who are registered in our constituencies because the dynamics of Nairobi, and those are the people we prefer. Yet when I was doing that process, there is a lady that I met from Molem Ward, my constituency, who, when she goes on the portal, her details come out as that she has double registration as a voter. Now, this is a lady that I know. She had her original ID. She lives in Molem, but when she goes onto the portal, the IEBC portal is saying she's registered twice. How can that be? She didn't get a chance to vote in 2022 because of that issue. Now, I've sent her to the IEBC office to try get that issue sorted, and it still hasn't been sorted, but we're still following up with our returning officer. But those cases are there. These people that I've read have nothing to do with Northeastern. In fact, and they are young people. The Gen Zs don't have the rural. Even me, I'm born here in Nairobi, but more so for the Gen Zs, this is where they've been born and brought up. So if they're in Nairobi, they're in Nairobi. But if they would go to their rural areas where maybe their parents or grandparents come from, these people would go to Central. I think there's one where Kambani. So I know where they would go. So when you find them in such areas, you ask them, have you ever even visited that constituency? They don't even know where it is.
Mwezi Julai mwaka 2025, mwakilishi wa kike jimbo la Wajir Fatuma Jeho alizua kizaazaa aliporopoka mbele ya vigogo wakuu serikalini kuhusiana na uchaguzi wa urais ujao. Madai ambayo yamerudiliwa mara kadhaa na mbunge tatanishi wa Kapsaret Oscar Kipchumba Sudi.
Sisi maneno yetu ni mafupi tu. Tunasema tu 2 term. Ama kuna maneno mengine? 2 term. Sio? Si tunangojea tu debe iletwe hata kama hatutakuwa na votes tutamuibia. Hiyo si siri.
Tutawanyorosha asubuhi na mapema ndio muende ICU sasa. Wacha hiyo na kura tutajaza. Hii kura hii tutajaza. Usijali, kura itajaa. Sitajaa.
Remember, we vote using our biometrics, but there is also a provision that in case your biometrics don't work, we go to the manual register and the ID. It means if you are very sure that this young person will not be there to vote, then somebody can manipulate it. It is a very serious issue because people have come out to register as voters. You've seen the numbers, especially here in Nairobi. We are leading. We'd like to think that IEBC is doing a good job, that the youth have come out, this time and give them a chance to express themselves on the ballot. And then you can imagine if they find themselves that they cannot vote. Imagine the disappointment these youths would have and the chaos that you could cause for us. So it is something of concern. And I've also had other members of parliament now start raising the same issue.
Now, IEBC, surely, you can't keep quiet with all these happenings. It actually means that the staff, even though Marajan left, that secretariat of IEBC needs thorough overhaul.
You do come to a secretariat that has been at IEBC for some time. That is where there could be an issue. We need to find out what's the issue here. There is somebody who is liable. There is a secretariat that is permanent at IEBC, and there is the temporary staff. I don't believe that some of these young temporary staff would play along to this situation.
Kwenye uchaguzi mdogo wa eneo bunge la Isiolo Kusini mnamo Februari 26 mwaka huu, afisa msimamizi wa uchaguzi alifutilia mbali matokeo ya kura kituo cha shule ya msingi ya Garbatula baada ya matokeo ya kura kuwa zaidi ya idadi ya wapiga kura waliosajiliwa.
And then I take you to see, disregard the results of the account of a polling station where the total votes exceeds the total number of voters who turned out to vote in that polling station. And for this reason, I, the returning officer, hereby declare that the results for Garbatula Day Primary School Station 1 of 1 hereby invalidate the results for this polling station.
Kamishna wa IEBC aliyekuwa anasimamia uchaguzi huo Hassan Nur alikuwa mwepesi wa kuipuuza dosari hiyo kubwa na ya kuduaza.
It doesn't taint credibility of an election. Sometimes you find the staff are heavily fatigued and they are bound to make human error. So we are looking at the results, because all along the results as posted at different times of the day is very consistent. It's absolutely consistent. It's just that one number that is creating the confusion. And we are looking in depth into this matter. And up to now, we have not yet pinpointed whether there was any ill motive towards this error.
The issue that happened in Isiolo South, it actually is similar to what happened in Venezuela. And these companies, Mathematic they have been indicted in so many places. In the Philippines, in Venezuela. Trump has been complaining because his company does not use the names Mathematic when they went to the USA.
Pambano lilikuwa kati ya wanawe marehemu Mohamed Tubi ambao walikuwa wanamenyana kumrithi. Mwanawe wa kiume aliyewania kupitia chama tawala cha UDA akamshinda dadake aliyekuwa na tiketi ya chama cha Jubilee. Mwezi Machi, kwenye makala maalum uchaguzi chwara wa mwaka 2007, mengi yaliwekwa paruanja kuhusiana na njama ilivyosukwa kuhakikisha hayati Raila Odinga anaporwa ushindi wake. Mmoja wa wahusika wakuu, mmiliki wa kampuni ya habari ya Royal Media Services SK Macharia, aliyekiri paruanja kuwa kitovuni mwa wizi wa kura dhidi ya Raila Odinga, alielezea kinagaubaga kwamba hamna sajili ya ukweli ya wapiga kura nchini, huku akimraia Rais William Ruto kuhakikisha sajili mpya ya wapiga kura inatengenezwa, hoja ambayo tume ya IEBC imepuzilia mbali.
We went to Naivasha to plan for the election of Raila as a candidate. Again, remember, it is Uhuru against Raila, and I'm campaigning for Raila. And at Naivasha, I tried to explain that the register that is going to be used has fake. I tried to convince Raila that the voter register that is going to be used is not proper, and they should give it to us, even if we are going to be his agents and organize the agents. He didn't think so, and because of the handshake with Uhuru, he thought it is a free free flow. Just for jokes, 2022 election comes. It's Raila against Ruto. They were saying they were saying we have deep states, and Ruto would tell them which deep states you have.
Why have we not gone to State House when we have actually won the elections through votes? This is because there is something which we were missing. And that's something which we were missing is called system. Some people are saying system is not important, but system is very important. And now we are with Uhuru Kenyatta, who is holding the system. So if the system plus our votes, which are always more than the others, what else? What else do we need?
Tunatishiwa ati iko system, ati iko deep state, ati iko watu watatuibia kura. Hata mkipiga kura namna gani, kuna watu wameketi mahali fulani wataamua. Mimi nataka niwaambie hawa watu tunawangojea. Hiyo deep state tunangojea, na hiyo system tunangojea.
But these 4 commissioners that who resigned in the end or were fired, they came to my house and I showed them how the register is not true. But that's how, obviously, again, and you remember Musando, that's how the votes have been put in. And now I come to 2022 election, whereby I try to convince Raila that the voter register that is going to be used is not proper, and they should give it to us, even if we are going to be his agents and organize the agents. He didn't think so, and because of the handshake with the Uhuru, he thought it is a free flow. Just for jokes, 2022 election comes. It's Raila against Ruto. They were saying they were saying we have deep states, and Ruto would tell them which deep states you have, because Ruto knew exactly how the extra votes will be put it doesn't matter. You know, I'm 82 years. If I get kidnapped or hijacked, 84. It doesn't matter.
In all these other issues, we were not there, so we cannot verify those kind of allegations. So we'll treat them as allegations that are not substantiated.
Bwana mkubwa mpya wa IEBC na kikosi chake wamejitenga na madhambi ya watangulizi wao.
You learn from your history and the past mistakes. You cannot sweep that under the carpet. But how you use those lessons moving forward is the most important part.
Aliyekuwa mwanasheria mkuu Justin Bidan Muturi alidai kuwa akiwa jijini Mombasa kwa kikao chake cha mwisho cha uongozi wa bunge la taifa na muungano wa waandishi wa bungeni Ijumaa tarehe 13 mwezi Mei mwaka 2022, alipokea simu kutoka kwa aliyekuwa naibu wa rais William Ruto kumtaka arejee ghafla jijini Nairobi kuhudhuria mkutano wa dharura katika makao rasmi ya naibu rais huko Karen, siku 2 kabla ya kutajwa kwa mgombeaji mwenza wake. Baada ya kuwasili alasiri hiyo, Muturi anadai alisubiri kwa zaidi ya saa 2, na alipokuwa amekata kauli kwenda zake baada ya giza kuanza kubisha hodi, mwenyeji wake akajitokeza.
So, in the course of discussion, he told me actually, the reason I did not come I did not come out immediately is because I was meeting those 3 gentlemen. So I asked him which ones. That's when now he told me there in the main house was holed up in a meeting with Chepkati, Professor Gulie, and Commissioner Bolu Molu. Currently is a commissioner of Public Service Commission. Of course, Gulie now is an advisor to William Ruto. Our friend, the late Chepkati, I think he got his reward when the wife was appointed the chairperson of the Commission on Revenue Allocation. So, I mean, so everything fits in quite well. And so when he told me he was meeting them, I said, oh, that's great. I told him, you know, actually they are the only ones who have now some what you call reasonable experience in matters IEBC, because they had a lot and come in quite late. The famous Cherera 4.
So,
and he was, I could see he was very excited. He's very excited about the meeting. The story. When he was telling me that, and I was telling him that, I was telling him these ones are they're the ones now actually who form the core of the commission.
It's also in public information now. They have also parted ways, and therefore, whenever people who have had certain relationships part ways, it is normal and it's expected that they will start maligning each other, and so I think that's in public information. But coming back to the question you have asked, there has not been any such meeting, and because the meeting was not there, I have nothing to tell you about the substance of the meeting.
I'll just ask a question, what I remember about that period. And the thing I remembered was that particular occasion. And doesn't it surprise you that the trio, Chepkati, Gulie, Molu, have all had some form of reward from William Ruto? I mean, you know, it's not rocket science to read between the lines. In fact, I would want Gulie to tell the country, as a commissioner of IEBC, then, what he knows about the local partners of Smartmatic.
All I would tell him is to leave me out in his wars with his former boss. I am not a party to whatever happened between them. I am a retired citizen, and he needs to give me peace and not to drag me in his attempts to malign his former friend and boss. A meeting of that nature that involves a chairman of the commission and two of the most senior, by then we were the most senior commissioners of the commission, could not happen in hiding. He says it was happening at the DP's residence in Karen. That was a public place, if you recall. I'm sure people used to go in and out of that place. So it is not possible that three of us could be in a meeting without anyone else recognizing our presence.
Did three of you ever have a meeting, whatever meeting with the then Deputy President at any point?
Not that I recall of. We have had engagements that were public.
Maswala kuhusu njama ya kuiba kura za urais uchaguzi wa mwaka 2022 zilianzishwa na aliyekuwa mjumbe wa Gatundu Kusini wakati huo, Moses Kiarekuria, mwezi Machi mwaka huo, wakati wa kongamano kuu la chama cha UDA. Na pia aliyekuwa mwakilishi wa kike wa Murang'a, Sabina Wanjiru-Chege wa chama cha Jubilee. Hoja ambayo tume ya uchaguzi ilijitia hamnazo licha ya kuwashinikiza wanasiasa hao kufika mbele yake kujieleza zaidi.
Unajua kule Central, nimesikia wengine wakisema hapa tuliwaibia. Kuna kaukweli kidogo, lakini kama tulijua kuiba, si hata hii tutafanya nini? Alafu
sisi ndio tulikuwa tunashidia Uhuru kura, na sisi ndio tulikuwa tunamuibia kura. Akili yote iliweka Uhuru kwa kiti iko hapa. Ile iko Azimio ni mwili peke yake. And I want to assure you all, kama kuna mtu ataangusha William Ruto sio mlima. Because we work as one team. And it is not something new. We have done it before.
The Commission will proceed and take action on Moses Kuria in terms of the law. Our team will investigate, and if the wording is said is confirmed and found to be offensive, then we shall proceed to summon him. Of course, we heard what he said, but he has his right to defend himself. So we also need to collect the evidence and before we summon him. So that is the work which the investigation team is working on.
Kwenye uchaguzi mkuu wa Agosti mwaka 2017, mgombeaji urais wa muungano wa upinzani NASA Raila Odinga aliwasilisha rufaa mahakamani kupinga ushindi wa mpinzani wake wa Jubilee Rais Uhuru Kenyatta. Rufaa iliyokubaliwa na mahakama ya upeo. Marehemu Feroz Nurji alikuwa miongoni mwa wakili stadi waliomwakilisha hayati Odinga.
What were the means of transmission? That already creates another area of hopeless doubt, which has not been cleared. But let us assume that they were transmitted electronically, and when that predictably failed, they were going on with another system. But whatever it is, 34As had 41,034As had to reach the National Tallying Center, and they reached on that day. Maybe they reached on the 11th, on the 10th. My lords, then we do not know what happened to them. On the 14th, on the 11th, they're not there. 12th, they're not there. 13th, they're not there. 14th, they're not there. My lords, they have gone into the IEBC headquarters, and then we hear no more about them until later, and I come to that. My lords, there is in the mid-Atlantic Ocean, near Bermuda, an area where ships that have gone into this area never seem to come out, and nobody knows what happens to them. This is called the Bermuda Triangle. And the Bermuda Triangle is notorious for the absence of knowledge of what happens to ships that go into this triangle. My lords, we have emulated that, and this is the Bomas Triangle. 34As come in, and then they disappear. We don't know what happens to them. My lords, this is not law, this is not accuracy, this is not verifiability, this is not transparency, this is something, unfortunately, that can only give rise to a very questionable sequence. Where were then these forms? Why were 11,034 A's missing for 5 days after the election? 6 days, actually.
A declaration is hereby issued that the presidential election held on 8th August 2017 was not conducted in accordance with the Constitution and the applicable law, rendering the declared results invalid, null and void.
Mwezi Machi mwaka 2026, aliyekuwa naibu rais Jeffrey Rigathi Gachagua aliibua madai kwamba alihusika na wizi wa kura za urais mwaka 2007.
Pale kwetu mwaka wa 2007 tukaona Kibaki yako kwa shida, tukachukua kura zote kutoka watu tulikuwa naenda police station, Tunaongea na OCS, tunampatia kitu ya kukula, anatupatia maabusu, anaenda anapigia Kibaki, anarudi kwa sela.
Waziri wa uchukuzi Davis Chirchir na mtaalam wa masuala ya teknolojia ya mawasiliano aliyehudumu awali kama mkurugenzi wa idara ya teknolojia katika tume ya muda ya uchaguzi IEBC yasemekana ndiye aliyekuwa kiungo na tegemeo kuu kusaidia muungano wa Jubilee katika chaguzi kuu za mwaka 2013 na 2017 alipoteuliwa ejenti mkuu wa mgombeaji wa kiti cha urais. Siku ya Alhamisi, wakati wa mazishi ya babake marehemu Edwin Koech, vigogo wa kisiasa walimiminia sifa kedekede hadharani kwa kuhusishwa kwake na ukarabati wa matokeo ya kura kuhakikisha upinzani unaambulia pakavu.
Hapo awali tulikuwa tunasikia tu jina Chirchir. Unajua tulikuwa 2013 katika ile NAS code pamoja na Weta na Musalia, tulikuwa pale code na NASA. Sasa tulikuwa tunashinda uchaguzi lakini hatutangazwi. Sasa tulikuwa tunauliza kwa nini hatutangazwi? Tunaambiwa Chirchir. Hey! Tukasema hii ni maneno gani sasa?
I have known Davis Chirchir first in the negative, as Gladys Wanga said, because we used to be told he was such wizardry in computer science that he could hijack numbers moving from polling stations to the tallying center, interfere with them, put them back, and let them go in a different form. Davis, I can assure you, I later learned that you are simply more organized than our team. And when we came together, your organizational skills spoke it all.
Mheshimiwa Junet, you know this Davis Chirchir is our numbers person kwa hii pande yetu. Na mara mingi huwa mnapiga kelele mnasema amefanya kitu. You have seen now the level of organization. When you are organized and led by a man such as this, utashinda uchaguzi. So welcome to government.
Kampuni ya Smartmatic International Holdings ambayo kandarasi yake iliongezwa kinyume cha sheria na aliyekuwa afisa mkuu mtendaji wa IEBC Hussein Marjan bila kuwepo kwa makamishna wa IEBC afisini, bado matumizi ya huduma zake ni swala tata ambalo tume ya sasa haitaki kulizungumzia katu. Mturi alikuwa mmoja wa viongozi wa kampeni za urais wa mrengo wa Kenya Kwanza. Je, matokeo ya urais mwaka 2022 yalikuwa ya kweli? Duncan Hemba, NTV.
To Parliament, we are accountable to the Auditor and Controller General. We are accountable to almost everybody. So we haven't taken a decision on the technology we'll use 2027. So that tells you which direction I'm heading.
I dare challenge them. Some of this data is not held here locally. Some of our data. Because when the Supreme Court ordered that they open the servers, Smartmatic, writing from their headquarters, one of their headquarters, they don't have one headquarters in Amsterdam. Yeah. On that the 1st of August, 2022, they say they cannot allow that because it's going to interfere with their intellectual property. Yeah. So the question that Kenyans must ask is, how do you enter into a contract with a company, a foreign company, that which has access to Kenyan data, but which cannot even be accessed by Kenyans, even including obeying a court order, a Kenyan court order? Remember, I raised the issue in January this year. I raised the issue that Jose Camargo spent the weekend of 5th and 6th July 2025 here at State House. And they were with Hussein Marjan. And William told you, no, I don't just raise issues. I have terrible evidence. I remember that I raised that issue in January this year. I said, please check this. That's how we ended up getting, the commission even ended up agreeing to sack Marjan, to retire him. Although, in my view, he should have been taken to court because he breached the law by illegally extending a contract.
Muturi was a key cog in the Kenya Kwanza campaign machinery. So, was the 2022 presidential election credible?
Now, with the information that I have, though it's I don't want people to say that, people will say that it's because I fell out with William. But I think, given what I've described, I would want Kenyans to actually make their own inferences about the credibility of the 2022 elections.
On 5th September 2022, immediately after the Supreme Court ruling on the presidential election petition upholding IEBC's declaration of William Ruto as duly elected president, outgoing head of state Uhuru Kenyatta addressed the nation. He disagreed with the Supreme Court ruling and raised a number of issues, urging Kenyans to constantly put constitutional institutions to test.
They must constantly scrutinize the coherence of the truth given by these institutions and to ask themselves whether the truth has been coherent from one election to another. Has there been a consistent pattern that is acceptable to our democratic ethos? We must ask ourselves, is it about numbers or is it about process? Which of these two is it? And can our institutions rule one way in one election and another way in another election without scrutiny? I do invite you, Kenyans, to keep vigil and indeed to hold all institutions to account. The second thing we must place under scrutiny is whether the truth given by institutions has correspondence. That is, do the truths given by our institutions correspond with what is observable by the citizen?
When he opened up about his involvement in presidential election results, senior citizen, businessman S.K. Macharia made a passionate plea to President William Ruto.
I want to tell President Ruto, and it's good that Raila is here, if he wants to leave this country, good, because he's the president and we cannot do anything, yeah? Whether he won the election or he didn't win, he's the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. But the only thing that can help us is to make sure that a new register of voters is created. If election comes before I pass on, like retiring in the next 2.5 years or so, so that all Kenyans can cast votes, and each vote will, even if I lose, he loses, at least he will leave a good country that counts votes.
The issue of crisis and confidence and trust, Khaemba, it is up to you, Khaemba. If you tell Kenyans that don't trust IEBC, of course they will take your word, right? But if you tell them, IEBC, we speak, we ask questions, we answer. If there's anything balanced, you can come to the office when I come back.
Duncan Haemba, NTV.